I walk as though this is my country. I act as if this is my country. And I think that other people, especially foreigners, because that's the first thing Japanese do, right? They make sure they authorize you and get you to...
Hi, welcome to the Black Experience Japan's Melanated Files. My name is Ranzo, and the purpose of this series is to highlight the black people living in Japan. Who are they? We share their stories. Remember to find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the Black Experience Japan, and subscribe to this channel for weekly videos on the Black Experience in Japan. Let's get into the interview.
Well, my name is Amaru, or Takuan Amaru, and my mother is Japanese, so my, I guess, origin is a little difficult. I've lived in 6 countries, and I've moved in and out of Japan several times. But the majority of my time, I guess, I split between the U.S. and Japan. No, again, I guess that's kind of maybe a little bit different. I didn't come to Japan. I'm Japanese. I mean. You know, my family's Japanese, so I guess when I went to the U.S., it was like, why did we go to the U.S. or why did we go to the Philippines? And so now, I guess, if anything, after, I guess you could say, being educated, I returned to Japan or something like that, I guess. But yeah, I'm in Japan because, you know, I'm Japanese. I mean, like the same way if you were in Jamaica or someone, you know, why are you here? I never really thought about that, and actually, I just started thinking about that recently, and that's kind of I don't want to say something that separates me, but I guess I guess perspective, when I'm talking to people, some of the disagreements I have, it's because I don't view myself as a foreigner, and I don't speak as a foreigner, whether I'm in the US or here. I'm glad you bring that up. I actually have written a book about my life, about this, because I get a lot of questions about it. But yeah, it's kind of, I guess, my father was in the military, but his background is that he's Native American and I guess American. And so yeah, he met my mother and they, you know, over here a little bit after World War II, in the post-war, I should say, time, and we started moving back and forth, I guess you could say. But I spent time outside of my family with other families because there was a lot of backlash to my mother marrying a non-Japanese person. I'm a writer. First and foremost, I'm a writer. And well, first when I was, as an adult coming back here, I spent my time teaching English, because that's something is easy to do and you can't really avoid it if you're a native, or you have native level speaking ability. But my main job now is I'm a writer, and I finished a book. I was a writer for the Examiner magazine for a couple years, and then I decided I wanted to stop writing a magazine because I was making just enough money to be broke, I guess you could say. And so then, yeah, I decided I was gonna start writing, and so I still teach English part-time, but more than teaching English, well, I teach at some companies, but more than that, a friend of mine, we make teaching materials, and sell them so that, you know, we don't have to physically always teach, and we can just get, you know, residuals from that. Well, the book that I wrote about, again, is my life. People ask me a lot of questions about Japan, and now with the tennis player Naomi Osaka becoming popular and her background being Haitian and Japanese, well, I guess biracial, whatever, multicultural, even the word hafu. This, not just hafu, but I guess because it's black and Japanese. Normally when people think of biracial and Japanese, they think of Caucasians and Japanese. But now that, I guess with her rise, I know I've gotten a lot more questions about it, especially because she is being viewed as Japanese, and it's not without its backlash from people, right? And a lot of people don't disagree with it, and yeah, so a lot of people have asked me about that. The book name is actually Gai Kokujin, the story, but the koku is not, well, normally if you look at Gai Kokujin, the word, it means foreigner in Japanese, comprised of 3 Chinese characters. The middle character normally is country, but I've kind of coined a phrase and changed it to mean black, which is pronounced the same, koku, but obviously it's a totally different meaning. Okay, well, I'll say 2 things, because one is really, I guess the thing I really like the most is just being home. Like, I don't know, again, I grew up, my mother is Japanese, so even when we were outside the country, our home was always Japanese. So there's a lot of things, little subtle things that I do in Japan or is done that's, you know, makes me feel at home. But if I compare it to other experiences I've had as a black man, the safety and the lack of police, like racial profiling, and even if you do have some sort of interaction with the police, I mean, there's, I've never talked to anyone who at any time started feeling in fear in some sort of physical way. And I saw your video when you got stopped over in Tokyo, and at best it's troublesome. I don't really, I wouldn't. You were a lot nicer than I am, but I don't think at any time you ever think like, hey, these guys are gonna, throw me down in the hood and really just embarrass me, and So yeah, I mean, how can you not like that? What do I like the least? Okay, well, actually, I wrote a blog article about what I call the Japanese complex, and that it's I guess the best way to explain it is, I think Japanese have a complex whenever they're facing or coming in direct contact with not only foreigners, but I think it's foreigners of Western origin. And I kind of make a case that this, you can see the reason for it, like following the catastrophic events of the war and the whole, like General MacArthur coming in and the Reconstruction, so to speak. And, so many people died. They had to switch from being a country that, said we descend from the Yamato, the divine Yamato race, and they called these people gaijin. And we can get into that word later too, because they still call people gaijin today. So I guess that's something I don't like. But I notice when Japanese deal with foreigners of Western origin, like they go into this mode where they have a certain set of things that they have to do, and it really only happens with foreigners of Western origin. And so that's something I really don't like. Right? It makes me uncomfortable a little bit. Well, let me say this. First and foremost in my life, I think I'm very, very proud of like my heritage. I'm very proud. I say it all the time. There's nothing else I'd rather be than a black man. And at the same time, I understand and accept and am very proud to be Japanese. And again, no hyphens, no half things. But I don't know if I qualify as being, like, as you say, the black experience in Japan, because even when I talk to Japanese people about this very topic, they always try to convince me and tell me how I'm not black, right? And I say, no, I am black, and they're like, no, and they have all these different reasons, and you can probably guess what some of them are, but about why I'm not black. But the one thing I can't argue with them about is that they'll say, okay, well, maybe you are, but you're not being perceived as such. And even if they're totally wrong, you know what I mean? If they're saying that, that's not something I can really debate with them. But I do know one thing, like recently there's been an influx of foreigners, like mostly from Asia, like Southeast Asian countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, and you can see them working in the convenience stores, amongst other places. And not even recently, I say for the past couple years now, there's been more and more when I walk in there, a lot of these people will ask me when I come up to pay, are you Japanese? And I'm like, first I have to, are you trying to be funny? Like, what do you mean? But even like now I have my hair covered, I normally do now, but back then I used to like have it out and it's quite long, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, how would you compare or think, confuse me with a regular Japanese, knowing what the phenotype is? But when I look at them, I can tell what they're saying is, you act like, not even in anything like that. But I mean, I guess what it is, I think what it is that I step forward as I walk as though this is my country. I act as if this is my country. And I think that other people, especially foreigners, because that's the first thing Japanese do, right? They make sure they authorize you and get you to accept this foreigner tag. And I think, kind of things go with that. And maybe I don't do that because, again, this was the first home I knew. I wasn't actually, my sister and brother were both born in Japan, and my parents, they specifically wanted me to be born in the United States. This is before Barack Obama, and you have to be born in the US to be president. So they kind of emergency, put my mother right before her water broke and brought me there like less than a month and had me, and then we came back to Japan. So officially, no, but in, I guess, actuality, yes. You know, I remember leaving Japan, we going to the Philippines, and so yeah, I didn't know anything about this until I was gonna play basketball. You know, I thought that I was born in Japan, like my sister and brother, and you find out something from a birth certificate. I guess a good story was when I worked in Kyoto. I worked at a private Buddhist school, and the school was very traditional. They've won. There's a tournament called Koshien, a baseball tournament. It's like how March Madness in the NCAA basketball is in the United States, and this school has won a couple times. It's really known. Anyway, they were an old school, like all boys, had the Prussian uniforms, and when they went into the modern age, they had to upgrade the English department. So I was the first teacher that they had come in there specifically because I could address the students in both English and Japanese. So anyway, because of this, I got a lot of notoriety in the school. And if you know anything about Japanese culture, they have the senpai kohai system where when you first come in, you're supposed to just be quiet and sit back. And if you don't do that, or for whatever reason, Japanese people, some Japanese people will take the, I guess you would say, the prerogative to hammer you back in your place. And there's a saying, right? The nail that sticks up gets hammered down. And so I guess I'm trying to give you the excuse, I guess, beforehand, but we had a bunkasai, which is a cultural festival. And for every cultural festival, they have a large banner that's out in front of the school, and all the art students contribute something to whatever the theme is. And that year's theme, I don't remember what the theme was, but there was a lot of people on the sign. And one of them was a blackface character. So I'm walking into school, and I'm seeing this blackface character up on the on the tarp, and so I'm like, okay. So I'm walking in, and I'm juggling this in my mind, like, okay, what am I gonna do here? Because I'm definitely not gonna go through this. So anyway, so I approach one of the teachers who was just above me, and I tell him, and I talk about it. And he's just like, yeah, and just kind of high-ing me. And so I had to upgrade it, and I didn't know, I'm making a complaint here. I'm not just, talking about it like this is the weather. And then he says, he still is kind of like, yeah, okay. And I said, okay, let me make it clear. I said, I just want to let you know that. I want you to make sure you understand what I'm saying, because I started getting a little bit passionate by this time. And I said, because I want you to be able to explain why I'm not here, because it was a Friday that day. I said, why I'm not here next week. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm not coming back here until that thing is taken down. And I really wasn't sure if they were going to do it, but it was just the moment. I guess we're talking about the spirit moved me, and I was like, nah, this is what needs to be said. And he was shocked, and I was kind of shocked too, but I had already said it. And I proceeded to get up, and this was again, it was still the morning. I think we had just finished our first class. No, it was before the classes began, because it was right after the chode. So he was coming to me to plan the classes, and I got up and walked out. And I looked really calm, but I was anything but. And I went home, and I spoke about it with people. Japanese people, and I ended up finding information in Japanese on blackface on the internet, and I made copies, enough for the 100 or so staff members in the school. And when I did come back on Monday, because he told me to come in for a meeting, when I came back, I stuffed all the staff members' mailboxes with that literature. And long story made shorter, a little shorter, it's already kind of long, but they ended up taking the tarp down. The art teacher really got chastised. I mean, he got chastised in front of everyone, in front of in front of all the teachers. and it costed them upwards of like I forgot what he said, like Sanju Mayan. It was a lot of money to take it down, get a new tarp, have it done, and they had to bring people in to put it back up. And but they never had any more problems with any kind of racist ideography or illustrations in the school after that.
What's the best life advice you've received?
Maybe just understanding and learning how to stand on your square. And sometimes you have to believe in something to do that. And you have to have a certain amount of fortitude and I think dignity. And a lot of that comes from your home training and people that you've looked up to, people have you been instilled with knowledge and what your experiences are. And I think of course, sometimes you're going to be wrong and you're going to have to, I have to adjust things that I do or say, but that just means I just set up my square, somewhere else that I'm going to stand on. But yeah, because there's always going to be people, naysayers, there's always going to be people who are going to tell you can't do things, and they're going to try to knock you off. And more than even that, they're going to try to put labels on you or stigmatize you in a way that's going to, or if you accept it, can which would kind of stagnate your development as a person. And I guess the advice I've received is, I remember especially moving to the States and getting called Jap, and I had to knuckle up and get in some fights over this. But one, older black woman, she told me, she said, boy, why are you worried about that? She said, it's not, what people call you, is what you answer to. And I think maybe that in itself, I remember that was one of the moments where, I had that aha moment and I turned the corner on some things, because I remember that was when I went from getting angry at people to then, even if I got attacked, I had to get attacked. And I think, as you know, if you get attacked, if you're standing on someone's attacking you, you fight a different fight, right? It's like if someone attacks you at your house, you fight a different fight than if you're outside on someone else's turf. Well, the one thing, if you come to Japan, the strength that I feel that's here is that, yeah, people might look at you kind of strange, but I don't know. People don't look at you strange when you're in the States, especially if you're in certain neighborhoods. I think that you already experience that. But in Japan, it pretty much comes without the threat of physical violence. So I don't know, if there's no physical violence, at a certain point, it seems like it shouldn't bother you that much. So I find that if you come to Japan, as for me as a writer especially, I find that I have time where I can cultivate myself, because the outside distractions that are here are not really catered to me per se. I can, be distracted. I can partake in those things. And now with the internet, you can look and go anywhere. But I know when I'm in other countries, especially like Canada, the US, or some of the Western countries, I can't really and this is just me personally, I seemed to remain distracted on different things. And some of it is good, but I don't feel as though I'm moving forward in, as a person, or in my craft, I should say. So I think coming here, I think if you're going to come here, you should come here and understanding that that opportunity is there for you, and you should try to cultivate something, because you really have time, as a great writer, Chancellor Williams, says in one of his books. He talks about, just being a safe environment where you have time to think. In the US, I don't really feel like I have time to think with, like I said, I'm looking around. You got to make sure no one's watching you and stuff like that, especially like in New York City. But here, someone's looking at you, okay, put on your headphones and go into a whole nother world. And 9 times, I even say more than 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, it's not going to be anything more than someone maybe looking at you kind of rudely. Like today, I told you when I came here, it's raining a little bit outside today, and I have a disposable umbrella, and somebody exchanged the umbrella, and they might have done it on purpose, they might have done it by accident. But that's about the worst thing that it happens. I've left my bag on trains and gotten it back with money in it. So, come. I mean, the last thing you should do is be afraid. Afraid is not really the correct emotion. If you can, have a trepidation. You're going to be away from your family, and there are certain, if you don't get along with the way Japanese do things, you're going to feel like you're swimming upstream all the time. But once you learn, basically just which way the current goes, you don't have to do exactly what they do. That's the beauty of being, that's another thing. I think that's the beauty here is you don't want to, piss people off, or you don't want to go against the grain, to an extent where if you're going to do everything against the grain, why even go to a place? But you get a pass for being a foreigner as long as you can do it graciously. Being outside of the group, it has its positives, and I'm gonna even write about that soon. Like, yeah, everybody looks at the negatives, like, yeah, you're getting bullied, yeah, these things happen, but yeah, also you get I hope you can get a lot of girlfriends too, man. You come over here because you become popular. And I mean, I have some guys that are, I'm just gonna be honest, some straight scrubs. I've seen some straight scrubs like shine over here, become like some rock star-ish, platform. And you're like, hey man, run with it, man. Go ahead, do your thing. So it's there's positives, there's pros and cons with that being excluded. My favorite winter food, I would say, is nabe, like nabe mono. And nabe is actually I guess it's the name of the dish, but it's a boiled dish, and it's really, really easy to make because you just really you have to spice or put spices in the broth, so to speak, but you're basically just putting vegetables and different meats in, and you can tailor it any way you want. So you can make it very Japanese, but you can make it, any kind of flavor that you want. And it's really, really easy to make, and it's really warming, and it's very social. If you go and visit a family in Japan in the wintertime, and you're sitting around under the kotatsu, which is a heated table, kind of, you get underneath, and it's very, very traditional. So I would say, try to eat nabe. And there's many, many types. Oden is one of the most famous. Well, I think people know this, but I don't think that they quantify or they equate it as such. Japan and Japanese always say this. No matter where you come from, they'll say something like, "Oh, is it dangerous over there, or it's scary?" And danger. That word danger always comes out. And I think that Japan, to me, I won't say it's one of the most dangerous countries, but I think it's dangerous in its own way. And it goes back into what I was talking about, the whole group ideology. I think in Japan, there's more people who are beat down, like, I don't know. I see there's a lot of people who walk with their heads down, let's put it that way. And a lot of their confidence is been chopped up because, in my opinion, and it's because it's the society's way of, again, making sure everybody stays in their lane. And again, that the whole the idea, or the word's not coming to me, but the way the society functions like that, it's both Japan's strength and its weakness, in my opinion. So I would say that the thing that people don't ever think about is just how I guess unsafe might not be the word. That's what Japanese say, but I always point at the suicide rate. And I said, it's one thing if in other countries, like when I went to Brazil, and they kept on how dangerous it was, how dangerous it was. And it was dangerous when I went, I have to admit. I saw a lot of violent, well, not a lot, but I saw more than I should have in a 3-week span, let's put it that way. But in Japan, like working in the schools, when you know how the ijime that goes on, and the way that people can't escape it, and to where it just beats them down inwardly to the point where they're going to take their life, to the sum of 20 to 30,000 a year, 25,000 being like a good year, right? And in this island nation, I say it's better to go, I would rather go somewhere where I know where the danger is, and I can put a door up, I can, stop people from coming in. But if the person I'm running from, or the entity that's harming me, is me, right, then I can't escape. Ijime, loosely termed, is bullying. I think it's more like, I guess the equivalent would be to be picked on, or picking on someone. And it's you hear about it, it's so big that they always have articles about it every year, and you always hear about some student who takes his or her life because, they're getting picked on. But again, in most of these cases, the person never gets touched. Okay, I mean, sometimes it does, they do, but I mean, even when I was in schools, I worked in schools for 10 years, and a couple different schools, and I had to learn. I got to the point where I could walk in and I could tell exactly which students were the ijime victims. And then I got, but it took me years before I could really pick that kind of stuff out. Like, I know it exists in here because I can just feel it, but but again, you have to be able to let it read through what's going on in society. Thank you. Again, my name is Takuan Amaru. Easiest way would be through Facebook, Takuan, first name, and last name is Amaru, Amaru. If you Google that name, my work should come up. And also my book, Gai Kokujin the Story, has its own website. So it's gaikokujinthestory.com. Okay, or even afroasiatic.jp.
Thank you so much for watching. If you or someone you know would like to be featured, send us a message through our Facebook page or Instagram at the BlackXJP, or via our website, blackxjp.com. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.